Okay, now that we've run through the reason for the machine, the use of the machine, what the machine is capable of doing for you, and why we have made the machine, we've ran through the features of the machine, we have ran through some of the specs of the machine, we have ran through all the little components of the machine. We are now going to run through placing a rifle into the machine and teaching you how to put a specific rifle into the machine. Keep in mind the machine has been mounted to a very secure bench. You have tested your bench. You have clamped the machine in the appropriate location so it's nice and solid on your bench. And we are going to mount a rifle into the machine. We will show you what that looks like. We're going to first back off the clamp pads so we can clear the rifle into the machine. We're going to make sure we have plenty of room on front and rear. We're going to go ahead and loosen our column, our elevation column. We're going to go ahead and loosen our front carriage, make sure it slides freely, is easily able to slide back and forth. We want to make sure the trigger finger and the trigger shoe is on the outside so easily you're able to set in a rifle. You want to look at your tactical rifle and you want to make sure that if you have a telescoping stock, that your charging handle will clear the buttstock. So if it was completely closed, will your charging handle clear? You want to place in unloaded with an empty chamber indicator and unloaded firearm into the machine. Make sure your front sign plate assembly is flat. Tactical rifle is flat on the bottom. It does not have a taper, so you want to make sure that it contacts the full bottom of your tactical weapon. You move the front carriage. Once you have verified that is far enough forward but yet far enough back to get your straps all the way around your machine and that it will clear your magazine, you want to make sure of your elevation. You want to make sure that you are not pointing down or up. If you are pointing up and the front elevation column will not adjust down anymore, you may need to place a little riser into the back to bring up the back of the machine. This particular rifle sets very nice and level. It is pointing up right now and we got plenty of adjustment down. At any point your magazine does not clear, you may have to use a smaller magazine, California compliant magazine. Verify that your straps will clear. And your rear strap will clear. And you can obviously see, according to my mount and my bracket, my front strap needs to go forward more. And that will still clear both straps. You make sure your magazine will clear. And the magazine clears. There is a notch in the front carriage to help clear that magazine. Once you have verified that's where you would like the rifle and where you would like the front carriage, you can lock the front carriage down. Keeping the rifle on the center of the front and rear carriage, you will need to decide exactly where the clamp pads are needed to be. In the event you need to move the clamp pads in the rear, you will need to remove the rifle and place the pads in the appropriate position. Interesting enough, the pads are in the right spot for this one. We'll get you a close-up look of that. Looking down onto the rear butt plate, you will actually see the rear pads will contact this adjustable buttstock in a perfect spot. The rear bottom pads will actually contact this triangle brace here, and it will actually contact that very well. So the rear clamp pads are in a good spot. Let's look at the front clamp pads. Looking at the front clamp pads, we can decide they can come down some. So to adjust the front clamp pad ears, we're going to use the T-handle. We're going to slide the clamp pad ears down so they will be in the appropriate location to contact the front stock. We're going to put this adjustable clamp ear also down, and I like it there. We have adjusted both sides of the clamp ears. We have verified the bottom of this rifle is flat, so we want that to set just flat bottom. So we will actually lock the sign plate adjustment. locking the axle on the slide plate and the adjuster, and then doing the other side. Okay, now that we've verified that the clamping pads in the back will grab the firearm securely, the clamping pads in the front will grab the firearm securely. The firearm is just setting in here, it's free floating. What we want to do is make sure we can apply our target. Your cheek will actually rest just about on this butt stock here. And there you go. If you cannot acquire target, you will need to unclamp your machine and shift your machine left to right. You do not shift the firearm. You want the firearm in center of the platform, center of the buttstock, and in line with this front strap here. Center of the barrel to that. You acquire your target. If you need elevation adjustment to acquire target, loosen your front carriage and go ahead and adjust your elevation to acquire your target. Once you have acquired your elevation, you may lock your front cam locks. Cam lever locks are locked. My elevation is acquired. I typically go, when I set this up, I'll go just a hair above center of where my elevation is. That is because when I strap this down and clamp this down, it will suck into the rubber just a little bit. Experience will show you how much to go just above where you want that point of impact to be. The gun is still floating in the machine. You actually want to clamp the gun. Keeping it in center, you will preload it into the buttstock, keeping it down on the machine. You will go ahead and tighten your clamp pads. If you would like, you can use a screw gun for this. This can speed you up at the range. Just to get a battery operated gun if you'd like. Put a 3/16 Allen wrench into a screw gun, and that can speed you up. We don't recommend you tightening the gun with the screw gun. The screw gun is handy to quickly move the pads to other locations or to quickly run the pads in and out if you would like. I'm pushing the firearm back and I'm pushing it down. I am verifying I'm staying in center of the rear buttstock. Equal pressure on both sides, keeping it on center, contacting it all the way around. That looks good to me. You will notice at this time, the rear is clamped, but the front still will move left to right just slightly. Keeping this in center of that front, you can bring your front clamp pads in. Your elevation has been locked because you have rough acquired that elevation already. So I'll touch the pads on this side, and I'll bring the pads in on this side to touch. Okay, with the pads just slightly touching, I want to verify I'm still on center, and I'll verify I can get to my target. I'll go ahead and install my rear strap, and I will lightly strap it using the ratchet buckle on this side. I'll go ahead and install it. Make sure when you put the strap in, it goes in here and goes through the bottom catch. You can pull down on it and you ratchet it like this. I'll just put very light tension on it at this point in time. To release the strap, if you want to release it, you pull here and you push right there, and that will release the strap. Please keep in mind, when installing the strap, make sure you get the strap inside the buckle. You do not want the strap on the outside of the bottom buckle. This may impede releasing the strap later. Same with the front strap. Front strap weaves underneath the scope, goes ahead and slides through there, contacts the bottom buckle. I'm not putting nothing on it right now. It is still loose. I'm just installing them, and I want to make sure this clears, and that's in a good spot. Now that I've put the straps on, the straps is lightly holding down the firearm. I'm going to go ahead and clamp the front pads now. I'm going to lightly clamp each side, keeping it on center and applying the same tension on both sides. It is not uncommon to get a little bit of blue when the machine is new. out of the washer there as this spins. That is not uncommon. And I am actually just lightly clamping. I'm not using full force with the T-handle, just a couple fingers. Working it back and forth. It is now clamped. I will go ahead and go around. I will go ahead and go around at that point, and I will ratchet the rifle down securely. That's secure. Okay, that is completely strapped and clamped down now. Okay, your tactical rifle is completely clamped into the machine. It is on center. You verified you are on target. If you need to move left or right on target, you need to unclamp the machine and shift the machine. It is clamped on the shooting bench right in front of the bearings here. Right in front of the bearings. It has been clamped to the bench. It is completely solid, ratcheted down. The front pads are clamped. The rear pads are clamped. The gun has been preloaded into the stock. The carriage is locked. The elevation, you can see in this case, we did not use the sling mount position. It is not needed, but it is safely out of the way. The carriage is locked. The pads are clamped. The rear pads are clamped. The straps are on. Everything is tight. This gun is solid into this machine. If I grab the gun, I don't feel no wiggle. The only wiggle I'm seeing is in this bench. The gun is held solid in the machine. You need to verify that the machine functions and recoils properly, nice and smooth. The noise you are hearing when I actuate it is the recoil mechanism back here. The recoil absorbing mechanism is the noise you hear. You got a hard return to battery. It sounds worse than what it actually is, and you got a hard stop. Sounds worse than what it actually is. Now that you've verified that the machine functions properly, the rifle is in the machine, you want to adjust your trigger position. You release your trigger bar and you slide your trigger bar to about the center of that guard and you lock it down. With the supply T handle, you can loosen the trigger finger and shoe from this side of your trigger assembly. You place your trigger and shoe, place your trigger finger and shoe on the other side of the trigger assembly, placing the finger through the hole of the trigger assembly and mounting it. Place the trigger finger through the hole of the guard and mount the trigger shoe to the trigger assembly. Pick which hole on the trigger shoe that is appropriate for your rifle. At that point, you can go ahead and lock the trigger finger and shoe, and I have placed it right in center of the bridge of that trigger. You can make fine adjustments forward and back at that point, and I place it with a gap in front of that trigger. See a recommended gap in front of the trigger and the trigger finger. So now what you want to do is charge the firearm and verify that it dries fires. You will notice at this point I cannot charge the firearm. I have left the pad on this rear strap. So let's go ahead and remove that pad so we clear that charging handle. Okay, I've removed the padded strap. I've verified my charging handle clears. I'm going to go ahead and drop the bolt, and I'm going to verify that the firearm dry fires. There is a recommended gap before the trigger and the trigger finger, and I'm just going to dry fire it. I'm going to verify when I release of the trigger handle here, there's a recommended gap between the finger and the trigger. I'm going to go ahead and rack the machine again, and we're going to go ahead and dry fire it one more time. And you can do this as many times as you need to verify the firearm will function appropriately. Okay, we've got the firearm completely mounted into the machine. Our points have been checked. Those points are, the recoil has been adjusted to where we like it. We have verified The action of the machine functions smoothly. We have adjusted the trigger mechanism and we have dry fired it. The rear is fully clamped and secure. The front is fully clamped and secure. We got all our straps installed. The front carriage is locked. The machine is clamped right in front of those bearing mounts. We have dry fired. We're ready to test. I always preload this wheel to make sure that it is clamped securely. We'll typically load about 5 to 8 rounds and settle the firearm. And you just go ahead and rack the gun and do your settling rounds. After the first 5 or 8 shots, we recommend you let the firearm cool. You go ahead and change your targets. You let the firearm cool and you do your next set of grouping. We recommend groups of 5 and 3 sets of those groups. So 3 sets of 5, and you average that out, and that will give you the accuracy of the firearm. We recommend let the firearm cool between those sets because that will directly affect your accuracy of the heat of the barrel and the heat of the gun. We also recommend letting it cool between because it may affect the function of the firearm or the durability or longevity of the firearm. Try multiple different grains through your firearm. You have seen video of this firearm in our grouping where we have taken it from 3.5 inches and we have shrunken it just down to 1-inch group just by ammo. Do 3 groups of 5. Once you have hit a repeatable state and you know how the firearm is repeating in the size of the repeatability, you can adjust the reticle to the center of that grouping. Then you can verify that with another set of grouping. Once you have verified with another set of grouping that that group went on center of where your reticles are, now you have reached an accurate state with your firearm. You have to hit repeatable, then you can get to accurate. Once you have your ammo grouping, it is easy to adjust your optics to the center of your grouping. Because the firearm is held securely, you can easily just adjust your reticles right to the center of that grouping. Now you know your accuracy is this much to those crosshairs. We realize in this particular setup, we left the adjustable buttstock kind of stubby. You are able to extend that out to give you a little more clearance in your charging handle, so it clears the strap a little better. If you extended that out, you'd probably even leave on that strap. As you can see, it clears 30-round magazines. Easily able to be changed. This machine is very repeatable in its handling, fire, and recoil. It will absorb the recoil and return itself to battery. We recommend for accuracy testing, you always verify it's back at battery state. You can adjust up the recoil if you want it to return itself to battery. During accuracy and repeatability testing, we will back out the recoil and return it to battery ourselves each time to be consistent in our accuracy testing. That is something we prefer, and we recommend that for you as well. If you are accuracy testing, just back off the recoil mechanism and go ahead and return it to battery each time. Obviously, this machine is to adapt to whatever form of testing you would want to do. If you're going to do a durability, a longevity, if you want it to return itself to battery and you go ahead and accuracy test, it's fully capable of that. But for repeatability, accuracy, we go ahead and return itself back to battery. You may hear some noise in our videos when we are doing the tests on these, and you may hear it as I recoil this machine. You may hear a little bit of noise or a little bit of crunching. That is actually the recoil mechanism under this cover here, which you've already seen. Is just the spring actually rides on that shaft a little bit as the noise it makes. We recognize there are some nuances to this machine to be aware of. There are things you have to pay attention to. We recognize setting up a sporting rifle is a little bit differently, so we're going to go ahead and remove this weapon and we're going to put in a sporting rifle and we'll show you how that works. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show you pulling the rifle out of the machine because we're going to set the sporting rifle up in and we're going to show you how that works. We're going to go ahead and release the ratchet straps. The next very important thing to remove is the front trigger. You need to get that out of the way for safekeeping so I don't ever lose any of the hardware. I just place it to the outside. And you go ahead and back off the front clamping pads. Verify before lifting the rifle out. Your trigger finger and trigger shoe is out of the way. Everything is clear. Gently lift the rifle up, and you're ready to put the rifle away. I have the recoil adjusted back, so I'll turn it to battery, but...
Yeah, that one's 9 o'clock.
The top left. Here's the bottom row. Don't hit anything on the top row.
That's right next.
Doing 3/4 left. 1 inch left, half inch up. Doing half left, half inch up. And half over. Same area. Same area. Oh, it's like this. That group is 100 inch. Except for the one. You're still holding 100 inches except for one. That one's a little high. Well, you have to slide when you get too much to the slide.
Clear! Alright, just for record reason, there's our 30 rounds of 75 grain. You saw it print on the scope and the downrange cam. And that's the 75 grain, and there's the 30 rounds right there, my friend. Pretty impressive. 30 shots. Obviously we got one a little over here, but we're not actually to the line yet, so good deal. Alright.